Hello everyone, and welcome to a build guide and review of Monarch of the Sword Iseria. So sit tight, I prepared a nice little PowerPoint, and this should also get uploaded to that EXOF website if you guys know about it. I'll leave it in the description if you'd like, but I'll just give away how to build the character, artifacts, combos, as well as my personal thoughts on the character. Now unfortunately the character literally just came out yesterday, but I've seen people playing the character and I think I can get a good estimation off the first day, but do be wary after. It usually takes us a little bit in this community to figure out if a character is really good or not, or for people to cook. But once again, I'll get into that later on into the video. So let's just get started. So first off, we have to familiarize ourselves with the kit. So starting with the skill 1 here, you guys can pause if you'd like in order to read this kit. Here's the skill 2. And here is the skill 3. Alright, so here's some important things to know about this character. So due to the increased counter chance, counter set is really not a requirement, but it removes her solo potential, so just be wary about that. So I do have a build that suits being not running counter set, but just be wary that Elbrus only works for the allies except for the caster. This means that you're under the assumption that the character is going to counter without counter set, which is a little bit of like a 50-50 game. It might work pretty well for things outside of RTA, but in RTA you do end up getting into these situations probably quite frequently with characters like this, so you're probably better off just running counter set. Penres is only for himself. I noticed people initially getting this incorrect, thinking it was for the team. It's not for the team, it's only for yourself. So characters like Ilanov are still valid to help keep your team alive, or just to make your opponent jungle who to seal. For instance, when you're fighting Roz, beforehand when Ravi got her buff, you had two options. You either seal Ilanov so that way you can get pen on the entire team but the Ravi, or you seal the Ravi so they don't do any BS, but then you can't do damage to the team. The same thing applies for Iseria here, right? They have to pick and choose who they seal. So Ilanov is still a pretty valid teammate. Crit is really bad. This character has literally a 0.3x multiplier, so please do not build crit on this character. It's really bad. It's just a waste of stats. Iseria will work better for turn 2 versus turn 2 matchups, meaning she will slightly struggle if you're playing aggro with her or trying to use her as a cleave anchor, and you might see a little bit of struggle if someone is being way more aggressive to you. Now of course, that being said, this character is an RNG character focusing on counterattacks, so there may be situations where you feel as if this character is not as impactful if you're getting ran over. Also, this character is notably weak to debuffs at no surprise, which is why when we come over to these stat screens, we can tell you what's good or not. Also, one more thing I added at the bottom here because I couldn't fit it in case, just in case, like for instance, you're watching on mobile, but pop damage does not work on a miss. That's something very important to note. It doesn't say it on the skill because you're kind of doing it in a way where if it does work on a miss, they'll tell you. But if it doesn't work on a miss, they don't tell you. So it doesn't work on a miss. So if you press S3 and you miss, you will lose that pop damage. So just be wary of that. So let's talk about stats here. So let's first off take a little bit of a look over in this corner here, and we'll talk about all the good stats that you want. So first and foremost, you do indeed want to get yourself these stats: attack, defense, and HP for your Iseria. These are your important stats. This is what you need in order for this character to function. Attack is what she is based off of, and this is what the pop damage is based off of. Defense, yes, Iseria does lose her defense every time she attacks, but still having a good amount of defense on your character means it can alleviate some of the effect of that defense break that you get on you, so you can maintain still being alive. So you will see that we have a little bit higher than average defense stats on the character in the stats table, but it's for this reason of just helping the character survive. And once again, since this character is fully based on counter attacks, you're going to need some HP to even out your effective HP to ensure the character stays alive. Next up is our optional stats here. So here we want effect resistance or speed. Now, effect resistance, I think it could be in the good stats table. You probably want to end up running effect resistance, but if you choose not to, then you can bump up more of your stats on the good stats table. As for effect resistance, if you do choose to run it, you want to be around 100 or higher. Anything lower than it, you're probably still going to get tagged by pesky debuffs, but anything above near the 100 line, for the most part, you should dodge most debuffs, stray debuffs, but for any heavy debuffers like Tenebria, you're still going to get tagged. If you choose to run speed on the character, which is probably not required, you do want to be around maybe the 140 range, meaning you could be a little bit below it, you could be a little bit ahead of it, which gives you a little bit more turn cycling on your own without needing to counterattack. Meaning it could make the difference between winning or losing a game because you were able to take the turn on your own without relying on counterattacks. Last up, we have the bad stats. So you do want to stay away from all of these stats. Once again, she has a really bad multiplier on her crits, so just don't build crit, so don't build it at all. And of course, no effectiveness actually works for this character, so don't build it either. Okay, so here are all the best artifacts for the character. First, let's talk about Elber's Ritual Sword. Now, Elber's Ritual Sword obviously is the best thing that you can play on this character. Especially if you choose to run without counter set, you are hard required to Elber's. But running Elber's on this character practically means you have a 40% chance to counter, and if more allies get hits, you're probably going to be around the 80% range, or just really high as a whole. So just run Elber's. I think it's just the best thing in the game. But if you choose to not run Elber's, then you can run something like Spear of the New Dawn, which is pretty nice tech, but this will, like anything below like S tier here, you're required to run counter set, just so you know. So Spirit of the New Dawn does synergize with her attack scaling abilities, so it's pretty nice to have. Proof of Valor is pretty nice to have as well, because it can keep her alive. Now this tier here I made because a lot of tanks always end up becoming an Aureus Knight for some reason. A good example of this is Abyssal Euphine. If you guys watched E7 WC last year, Abyssal Euphine was played on Aureus in order to play for her passive ability, and just like the buff strength on Astery and so on. This always happens. Another example is Ilanov. Ilanov had a DPS build, and then she was swapped over to Aureus. Now, yes, having two builds is nice, but most people still play Aureus over the damage build. So I can see Iseria in the future becoming an Aureus Knight, with her only disadvantage being that she still needs to counter set. But if she does function as an Aureus Knight, that means every time she counters, she cycles her front row, so or gives him a counter attack as well, so still could be pretty useful. Now anything below here I think is okay. Oh, actually I went to the next slide. Anything below here I think is just okay, but if you want to play some of these artifacts in the B tier are okay. Holy Sack means to get another life. Noble has a maybe interesting interaction. As your HP gets lower, you get some ER, which means you can't get debuffed, which is what you want. Extra defense maybe to keep you alive. I really don't know how that's going to work with the decreased defense, but eh. Bachelor Pelusa gives you a barrier and immunity buff for you and the person in the back row, which is good if you're running Pursuit set instead of immunity set. And Guided Decision gives you some CR pushing when you have the barrier on you, which is actually pretty nice with Iseria's passive. And once again, anything below here just doesn't make sense to run, but if you choose to run it, well, it's pretty bad. Next up, let's talk about sets. Now, as you can see here, I only have Counter Set here as your 4-piece because it just seems like the best thing to do. If you choose to run anything else, it just doesn't make that much sense, but I guess you could try out things like Speed Set if you really choose to. And since this character has a really bad crit stats, there's no point even playing Destro. These are all valid 2-piece sets on the right side. These all work out. HP and defense help your bulk. ER helps your resistance. You can never go wrong with a immunity set, especially with all like things like defense break, seals that can come out, especially like DN in the meta. Having immunity is pretty important. But if you don't want to run immunity and you want more damage, Pursuit Set is the way to go. Okay, so first let's talk about the triple set build. So for this triple set build, you want to run the stats. Now these stats are pretty much going to be the same as the counter attack build, but you're going to be following around these stats. Now, although I have 3.7k here, you can probably want to be around 4k attack, because 4k attack is where most people I've seen have on it, but this is your bare minimum. You want to be above this. You want to be around 4k. Your defense can be around 1500. It can be a little bit lower. It can be much higher. I have seen 2k defense, but you want to be around here at the bare minimum. As for HP, you want to be around here at the bare minimum. Once again, you could probably be around maybe at a minimum like 18k. I think I've seen 18k. but you do not want to be super low on HP. You still want some HP to still be alive. So 20k is your average. And once again, ER seems pretty good on this character, so you want to be around 100. As for the triple set builds, immunity is a hard requirement. Pursuit set I think is a hard requirement, and then you can mix it up between any of these 2B sets at the bottom between resist, immunity, HP, and defense. Alright, and here's your counter damage build. As I said, it's pretty much the same exact stats, but once again, you want to be around 4k attack, 1500 defense, around 20k HP, and ER. But the only difference this time around is that you're running counter set immunity, or you can run counter set pursuit set, whichever you prefer. And last but not least, we have this counter tank build that I came up with, which is pretty cool. You're basically running not as much attack, but you're running full bulk, and this is mostly to use on Arias if you want to try it out, but you're pretty much completely sacking your damage. So, but the benefit of this is that you're really tanky, but you're lowering your damage quite significantly. It's something I want to try out, but I don't see myself doing it in the near future, but if you choose to do it, you can do it. If you play this one, you're going to be playing on counter immunity or counter HP. Last but not least, we have all the combo units you can play. So everyone in this top tier is really good to play with her. Anyone right below are useful units to play with her. Anything in the OK combos tier, which means these are pretty bad units, but if you choose to use them, you can. Armin, I think I would move up to the OK combos tier because she actually seems pretty nice because of her damage mitigation, so you can move her up. But otherwise, everyone else is pretty bad. These are the nice to have tier. They don't really make that much of a difference for you, but if you do have them on your team, it can work. And these are all the counter picks in the game against her. And these are anti-synergy tier. I just put Iseria there just because. Now, Lionheart is a little bit of an interesting one. Now, Lionheart is interesting because she kind of functions like Setsuka matchup, where in some scenarios she can lose against the Setsuka, even though she should hypothetically win. It's kind of the same thing with Iseria. Depending on your matchup, you may lose against Lionheart, or you may win against Lionheart. If you have Ilanov in your team, for instance, you can counter Lermia's pen damage, which means you can keep your team alive, which makes it harder for Lermia to do her job against Iseria. But if you don't have Ilanov, for instance, you're going to take a lot more team damage, and then it'll all depend on what turn cycling you have, if you have any other injury units, if you were able to lock down Lionheart. It's pretty dependent. So I really wouldn't say it's 100% a hard counter to Iseria, but I wouldn't say it's it's totally useless. But I just have her in the bottom tier for that reason. Everyone up here, I don't want to make this video too long, but they're pretty good. I would like to point out stuff like Rats, who increases the injury amount, which makes it easier for Iseria to do her job. Carmen is a perfect mitigation knight to run with her to just keep her alive. Arya is actually a pretty interesting one. It gives you ER, which is perfect to get debuffs off of Iseria, as well as it gives Arya more turn cycling, which is perfect for her and perfect for you, right? There's just a lot of combos you can play with this character, but yeah, that's pretty much it, really. So there's my like what I think about the character so far. I think she's pretty interesting. I don't think she's completely bad, but she's definitely not an every game unit. That being said, she does not have extreme usability in every single mode. I think that she is not that good in Guild Wars. When you're playing a 3v mode, like a 3v3 game mode like Guild Wars, it makes it substantially hard to play it like Iseria. So I really don't think she could be that much useful there. And in terms of Arena, with skills and Setsuka and every defense, it will be certainly hard. I do think she's way more usable in there than Guild Wars, but I don't think it's going to be as impactful as you think it would compared to some other characters like Rat. And of course, her pop damage does not work on misses, which makes her pretty bad into Setsuka in terms of Arena. Of course, this character does not have any crit and is completely focused on pop damage, so she does not have that much usability in PvE either, meaning she feels like a strictly RTA unit, which will of course not be too usable for everybody. So in terms of RTAs, from what I've seen so far, Of course, well, from what we ran in the kit, she's a 4 or 5 unit, so that's what you're going to expect. I do think so far she's actually way better than expected, because she does a pretty good amount of damage, but she does have her counters. So is she OP? No. Is she worth a pity? Probably not. But I do think she's probably worth having, and she could potentially even become stronger in the future. Now, who is the better unit between DN and Iseria? Were you right for getting your DN? Yes, you probably were. But I don't see Iseria as a bad unit, so don't get me wrong. So anyways, I will leave it here, so you guys know how to build the character. And yeah, one thing I'll just say is, like, once again, this character feels pretty hard countered by debuffers. So do note that you should be careful when fighting CL characters like Diane or Luna, or anybody who has any hard debuffers for you that will keep you locked down. So just be wary of that. Anyways, I'll leave it here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.